Hey everyone, this is Brandon, also known as Paradox, and today I'm here with Video Deck Tech. We're going to be talking about Yetis, and I got the idea for the deck from Isomorphic. He posted his list on Eternal Warcry, and I think he hit rank 5, he said, with it. And his list was a little bit different, but I started with it and kept tuning it and playing it. Really liked the deck and ultimately made a couple of changes, sort of more for what I was looking for out of the deck, and ended up with this right here. It's an aggro mid-range deck, a little bit more on the aggro side. It does definitely trade some speed and some reach that you see in a lot of other aggro decks. But in exchange, you have a lot of fuel and the ability to just keep drawing cards and playing units. And it also has big tempo plays and the ability to put everything on the board kind of all at one time. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with the deck. In the 1-drop slot, we have Snowcrest Yeti, kind of a given. It's the only Yeti that's really worth playing right now at the 1-drop slot, and Aegis is really powerful and allows you to survive a lot of things. Also at the 1-drop slot, we have pretty much all of our removal. 4 Islands Intervention, 4 Permafrost, and 3 Torch. I'll explain that in a second. The 4 Islands Intervention, it really is just an incredibly strong card right now. It deals with Hailstorm, answers Slay, it answers Unseen Commando and Valkyrie Enforcer, and just from those 2 abilities alone, it actually is not often a dead card. And then its last ability is most important here in our Yeti deck. It allows you to gain, allows you to more favorably trade in a lot of situations. Deal with 2-for-1 blocks and only you lose 1 unit, for example. Allows you to basically counter Torch and survive Torch, and is overall really powerful. Being only 1 power to cast allows you to keep only 1 power open against Hailstorm decks and continue to develop the board, and that's probably its most important function here above all other things. For Permafrost, I'm just finding that there's a lot of units to answer with Permafrost, so that's why we're at 4. Takes care of Heart of the Vault and other things like that that would otherwise be difficult. Torch, meanwhile, is just really not answering a lot anymore, so I cut down to 3. Is that a mistake? I don't know, but I cut the 1 and almost considered cutting more because I kept drawing it and not wanting to have it. So that's where we're at. In the 2-drop slot, I have Champion of Fury and Fearless Yeti. Fearless Yeti is not amazing, but he does get better with Wump, bringing up that health up to 2 in particular, and also his on-hit ability is very powerful with Wump, and really nice. Champion of Fury needs no explanation, just runs away with games if it's not answered, and is very aggressive. 3-drop slot, we have a couple of choices here. We have 3 Standard Yetis, 4 Wump Party Starters, and 4 Yeti Furflingers. Wump should be kind of a given in a Yeti tribal deck, but I will say that you don't need him to win, but if you manage to start your turn with Wump in play, you almost always win the game, or at least your win percentage shoots up dramatically. He combos so well with so many of your cards, gives you a huge board buff, and really plays super nicely with a lot of other Yeti cards in particular, including Thudrock especially, and I'll get to that in just a second. We have Yeti Furflinger as well in the other 3-drop slot. I originally had Pock here in the slot, and I just felt like he wasn't doing enough for what I wanted to do, and I put in Yeti Furflinger and haven't looked back. He is just a 3/4 for 3. He's pretty easily castable in this deck with all of our 12 dual faction sigils and the common cause, and just leaning on primal in general in this deck. Nightfall is almost always a bonus for you because it gives you more fuel and you generally are able to put out your cards faster than your opponents. And you don't use his ultimate very much, but sometimes it helps you just get there and deal with problematic stuff that you otherwise wouldn't be able to deal with, like Tavrod. So that's really nice. Standard Yeti is kind of a given. Doesn't need much explanation. Just an efficient unit. Not as good as he used to be, but still pretty good. Thudrock is super powerful in this deck. Often he comes down with Wump in play and is able to immediately produce a snowman, which is really powerful. He's just kind of a big unit overall and demands an answer from an opponent. And if they don't have an answer, he will run away with the game if they can't deal with him. The nice thing about him too is how his high attack and health, and that combos really well with Slope Sergeant, and we'll get to Slope Sergeant in just a little bit. In the 5-drop slot, we have Jotun Feast Caller. I know a lot of people don't like this card, but with the amount of control that I've been going against and the amount that I'm expecting, I found Jotun Feast Caller to be really strong. He really only hates Sandstorm Titans, and those are much less common now than they used to be. You have a lot of removal to clear the way for him, and he gives you a unit that has Aegis and survives harsh rules, and if he goes unanswered, he really does just take over the game for you. 3 is where I'm at. 4 sometimes can be too many, but against most matchups, he's been kind of an all-star, so that's why he's there. And I have 2 Obliterates as our last piece of removal here. Just great at clearing units, getting rid of bigger things, and actually works really nicely with Wump as well. Wump makes all your Yetis take care of face Aegis, and Obliterate then can hit face a lot more easily than it might in other fire-based decks. The last and most important card of the deck is Slope Sergeant. Slope Sergeant is usually just a 3-cost or a 2-cost 4/4, and his bond ability is totally insane. You will, let's say you have a couple extra sigils in your hand that you don't want to deal with. Once you hit 5, you don't really need any more. Well, Slope Sergeant discards those and often just turns them into 2 relevant cards. We have 4 Granite Waystones to make little Granitins, so you can play power and have a free card, and unless you really need that Granitin, you can hold it and then discard it to Slope Sergeant and draw something more relevant. Alongside cards like Thud Rock. Thud Rock either being a 5/4 or a 6/5 with Wump in play. Slope Sergeant can then be played for either 1 power or even for free, and that allows for huge power turns where maybe on turn 3 you play Wump, and if they don't answer it, turn 4 you play Thud Rock, who is a 6/5. He makes the snowman from his on-hit ability, and then Slope Sergeant can actually be bonded on him for free. And so just in 1 turn, you made 3 units, and then you did your drawing and discarding, and maybe drew more gas from there. And if your opponent doesn't have Harsh Rule, oftentimes they actually just lose right there on the spot. It's plays like that, chaining Slope Sergeants together later in the game, having big swings with multiple Thud Rocks and dropping lots of snowmen in play that allows the deck to really churn out units and kind of have just this massive board presence and fill up the board faster than most decks can deal with it. And then when it runs out, or if it deals with a harsh rule or whatnot, it's got cards like Jotun Feast Caller and Slope Sergeant to keep the fuel coming and keep the units coming and coming and coming. And that's what really makes this deck good and separates it from a lot of other aggro decks, like say Rakano, where they kind of just put all their eggs in one basket, and then if they run out of threats, then they're just kind of out of the game. So overall, it's been really strong, and hopefully I will be able to keep up that success today in the tournament. Anyway, thank you all for watching, and hope you enjoy the tournament, and hope that you enjoy the deck tech. So thanks again.